Rise, veuillez vous lever. Please be seated. Veuillez vous asseoir.
Good afternoon, sir. I hope you had a good rest over the lunchtime. And I think we probably have half an hour, 40 minutes to go. We were speaking about different conditions, situations in the camp. And as you are a teacher, I would like to ask you more about schooling in the camps. But first of all, let's speak about your children. Were the older and the younger children able to go to school since you live in the camp?
Answer. When it comes to education, since the early days of the camp, as I said before, there were organizations providing education for children until for young teenagers as well. So schools were established, and the UNICEF was providing lots of services, lots of aids for education. When these organizations left, the educational process was affected, and lots of teenagers dropped out of education. Only basic schools or basic schools providing basic education remained, and these are supported or subsidized. They are supported by organizations, and we have what we call the Educational Council that supports these schools. Teachers who are parents of the students volunteer at schools. And in most schools, teachers work on a voluntary basis. Any remuneration is very simple or very minimal. And in each camp, there are approximately 200 to 300 teachers. And in each school, there would be 10 to 15 teachers. So this is how the educational system is functioning. And it's more on voluntary basis than it is on work or job opportunity basis or remunerated job basis.
Are you able to provide a rough estimate of what proportion of children in the camp are able to attend the school? Like every 10 child, every second child?
Answer. Children, when they are 4, 5 to 6 years old, they are in pre-education. Starting 7 years of age, they enter grade 1 or primary education, followed by higher levels of education. So when a child is 6 years old, or before a child is 6 years old, they have to go through kindergarten, like a pre-educational phase. And if they go through this phase, they would have a better level. However, some conditions prevent some children from going to preschool education. And there also teachers work on a voluntary basis, and there are attempts at raising awareness in order for the people to understand the importance of education, especially preschool education, in order for the children to be at a better level when they enter primary education. And the situation in the camp also influences the situation of the students at school.
If we look at the next slide of the presentation, it's slide 7. Can you see that on your screen?
Yes.
What can you say about these pictures? Is this more or less what a school or schooling looks like?
Answer, yes. Picture number 1 is a classroom or a class. At the beginning, these classrooms were made of local material. And with time, these classrooms were developed and they were made of other material. But you can see that it's not covered. So I think that students in this picture are between grade 1 and grade 3. So this is how classrooms looked like. Picture number 3. This is how students used to sit for exams, or this is how students sit for exams inside the camp. So these are for more advanced classes, such as grade 8. So they have these exams. They sit for these exams. So students sit for such exams in the square when they are in grade 8. And so they have these unified exams, and if they pass, they can go to the higher level of education. So these exams can be the final exams, the final exam of the academic year. And as you can see, some classrooms can be, or some classes can be very crowded, as you can see in the last picture, and other classes can be less crowded with 30 to 40 students in each classrooms. And as you can see, this is how classrooms looked like. And these pictures show the reality.
Where do they come from? For example, the papers and the pens. School uniform doesn't really seem to exist. But the school supplies, who provides for that?
Answer. As I mentioned, in the past, there were resources coming from some institutions or organizations. So the UNICEF used to provide notebooks, books, and some tools for the teachers. So all this material was provided by the UNICEF. At the beginning, we used to get them directly from the UNICEF, but later on, we started getting them from the UNICEF through the government or through the Ministry of Education. Now, the situation is a bit more difficult. And now, some supplies are being bought from some of the money that the school has, or do we receive them through charity? However, we don't have any direct support now, any direct aids that we receive for schools.
I can imagine that life of children in the camp is not very easy. As a teacher, you probably observe, and as a father as well, observe the life of children on a daily basis. Can you tell us about other difficulties and hardship that children are facing around you?
Answer. Children are suffering a lot. Their suffering is related to the life conditions they are subject to. Can you hear? So, the children are clearly suffering nowadays. Can you hear me? Is it clear?
Yes, thank you. I can hear you. And
So the children are suffering in the camp, and this suffering is not simple. Certainly, each person has individual needs, and these needs are not being met at the camp. Older children start to work, and they can provide a little bit for themselves. So we have lots of children who work. They work in the market, for example. So they work in order to try to get something in return and to help their households. And these children usually are not able to continue their education. So if we compare the life of a child in the camp and the life of children outside, we can find lots of differences. So these children in camps are living a more dire reality. Their life is difficult in the camp. The economic situation is difficult, life is difficult.
can you say how children, maybe your own children, but also children you teach and observe, and who were born and raised in the camp, how do they relate to the Fur culture? Is it something that that the community is able to transmit?
Answer. It is true that the children are raised in an environment that's related to the culture.
Oh, he's gone. What's happened? We appear to be missing your witness. Oh, he's back again.
I will repeat. Shall I repeat?
Yes, please. You can repeat the answer to the question. We can hear you.
So, the children in the families, they speak the four language. So they grow up and they have a certain relationship with the language, the traditions, and children are partners in the family. And this is why they are aware and they know the culture they grow up in. Second, in addition to the four, the other children of other tribes present in the camps, they speak the languages of their tribes. Third, I spoke about education. People face economic challenges. Mothers are working, and what I notice in the camp is that mothers are working hard in order to provide their children or to provide for the needs of their children. I told you that my children do go to school. However, I'm also a teacher in that school. So we have to make lots of concessions in order to make sure that our children can go to school. So it's not granted. So in order to provide or to make sure that our children are benefiting from the right to education, we have to make lots of concessions to make sure that they can go to school because they are not getting we are not getting any assistance from elsewhere. So this is one of the things we live also. And my relationship with my children is good, as I had told you before. So I had 3 children before coming to the camp, and I hope that the other siblings will catch up with their siblings as well.
Were you able to teach your children about how your community lived before you were displaced, and do some of the traditions go on in the camps, like celebrations, the ones you mentioned this morning? Is this something that you succeed in giving some continuity?
Answer. This is a mission that we all carry with because we have to show our children what happened, how we used to live, and we have to tell them also what happened. It's also important to take these children also back to the places where these incidents happen. And certainly the children understand that something happened and there's a reason why we're not in our villages anymore. Hopefully in the future, people will have an opportunity to return to their lands because there are lots of inheritance lands that can be inherited And this is one of our rights also. It has been very long since we've been out of our land. This is why it's important for us to teach our children everything and to tell them about everything that has happened before.
We understand that you had a very long and difficult journey in order to appear before the judges today. Can you explain to the judges why it was so important for you to undertake this very difficult journey and to be able to speak to them today, even if it is remotely? But as I said, you are very present in this room.
Answer. My trip started from the Delege going to Niala. So this is the displacement. The displacement journey from the to Niala was more difficult because back then we did not know where we were going. We were going into the unknown or where we can live. So back then the journey did not have any purpose. As for the journey from Niala to here, during that journey we faced lots of challenges and difficulties. However, I have a target. So I had to go after this target. I have already lost my land and my country, and I have lost lots of people in my life. I'm seeking an entity that can achieve justice, give me justice. This is why I wanted to travel So if I suffer a little bit during the journey, it will not be a problem because I will be standing before the court and I will be calling to be granted my rights. I will be asking for my rights.
You are, sir, a participating victim in these proceedings based on what you told us today, what you witnessed and experienced in Delege on this Friday in March 2004. Is there anything that you would like to say to the judges about what these proceedings mean for you personally, but also for your community?
Answer. At the beginning, I would like to thank the court for the procedures, for these proceedings. Concerning this case, this case is for all the refugees and the displaced person, for all the children and for the widows. These proceedings are important for them, and I hope that justice will be achieved. And we know that the law is above everything. And whatever is achieved by law will be satisfying for the people that I mentioned. So I hope that the path of law will be achieved and things will be fair for us. So we also hope that all those against whom arrest warrants were issued will stand before the judges in order to serve justice. So I hope that God will give us strength to be successful in this quest.
We understand, sir, that your experience and hopes may not be the same for all the victims, and we as your lawyers always stress that every victim is an individual and may have very different hopes and wishes. Now you are here as a kind of ambassador for many others, because we can't call them all. And I know that you have very regular discussions within the victims community. Do you want to tell us, or can you tell us, what the views and hopes of other Darfuris who you know and who you have been in contact with have expressed?
Answer. Do you mean their views when it comes to this case, or their views in this court?
Their views when it comes to this case, but also their hopes for the future.
Answer. Their views and their hopes for the future are, first of all the people are longing for a verdict from the court. And as soon as a decision was made to establish a case, all the people started following the news on the television, and they started going to clubs in order to follow up on this matter. They were following up on this issue with passion. They were eager to hear news about this. Even now, they hope that this case will advance. They also hope that they can return to their original villages in the future. They hope that justice will be served. They hope that justice will also be sustained, so people will not be followed in the future. So they hope that everything will happen in a safe manner as well.
Sir, unless there is anything that I forgot to ask you, I would like to wholeheartedly thank you for this incredible journey that you undertook, also on behalf of the other participating victims. And above all, I wish you a safe return to your wives and to your family. Thank you.
The participating victim, thank you very much. My gratitude is also extended to all common representatives, legal representatives of victims, also the bench and all those involved in the court process. And allow me to take this opportunity to offer my prayers to the martyrs of Darfur, the orphans, the widows, and the survivors. I also would like to address Darfurian women against whom the economy was used as an instrument against them to humiliate them. However, they remain dignified, firm. The Darfurian women are iron ladies, and justice will be rendered, hopefully, and the future will carry the best for them. We respect and appreciate women. Women are mothers, sisters, and everything. And to quote a poet, the mother is the hand that rocks the cradle. Thank you very much, and my warmest greetings to you. And if I missed anything, I hope I'm forgiven. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm taking it, as I said, there are no questions from anybody else. No. Sir, that does conclude what you have to say to us. And like Miss von Wistinghausen, we thank you very much for coming to the court with all the difficulties that that entailed. When I say coming to the court, these days there is no difference as far as the impact is concerned on whether you are physically present in court or as you have been on a screen. Can I assure you that if an appropriate time does come, then the views and concerns you have expressed over the last few hours will be taken into account. And so I thank you once again.
The participating victim, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much. That concludes your session. Yes, Miss von Wistinghausen, I understand you can't continue with the second victim on the basis that they haven't had a familiarization yet.
Yes, the familiarization, we tried to have it during the lunch break, but that didn't work out, so it's going to be this afternoon. And in any event, there would have been a change in...
Yeah, well, I imagine there would have had to be a break anyhow. Yeah. All right. All I want to inquire of you, there is no time limit, but do you think you can conclude by the end of the second session? In other words, the break over lunch.
I think so. I hope there won't be too many connection problems, and the participating victim who will appear tomorrow will speak in Four. So, of course, this will take a bit more time. On the other hand, I don't intend to show her pictures, so I think we should be fine. Yeah. I may ask for a bit more time, but I don't want to rush her. It's difficult to say because I didn't even have the opportunity to prepare with her for tomorrow. So I also have to see, how it goes.
Yes. All right. Mr. Lauchi, I see you're back. I gather that you want to raise, or somebody wants to raise something before we break.
Unfortunately, yes, Madam President. But that will require a closed session.
Yes. All right. That's a closed session. This is something we can do something about, is it, Mr. Lauchi, rather than just a complaint?
It falls under your prerogative.
Yeah. All right.
I can see something that falls under your prerogative.
All right. Yes, private session.
We're back in open session, Madam President.
Yes. Well, having dealt with that matter, that brings us to the end of today's proceedings, and we'll adjourn until tomorrow morning at 9:30. Please, thank you.
Rise, veuillez vous lever.